We're live.
Amazing.
Mel, thank you for joining me. I've been so excited to talk to you for a while now. I've been learning so much from you, from your posts. I think everybody here is going to know who Mel is. But Mel is,
That's a good
she's,
thing.
yeah, she was the Link Tank and really, in my mind, the top expert in LinkedIn growth. But if you can introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you're doing both in Substack and LinkedIn.
Sure. So those of you who don't know me, I'm Mel Goodman, Melanie Goodman, and I've been on LinkedIn for well over a decade. Actually, surprisingly, although it feels the same amount of time, I've actually only been on Substack for about 9 months. Um, and I can talk a bit more in a few moments about what brought me over. But yeah, I specialize in LinkedIn training and LinkedIn marketing generally, business development. So the focus is really on converting your connections into clients because that's what most people want to do. LinkedIn is more sort of about client generation and pipeline than Substack is a bit more creative. But it together they form a fantastic flywheel because you can basically monetize your LinkedIn connections without sounding too materialistic. That's that's really what you can do because you can build a community on Substack, which is much harder to do on LinkedIn because LinkedIn groups just don't have the same feel as Substack community, which already in 9 months is you can build a really warm place. I've met great people, built some fantastic relationships. People have come to me for training and LinkedIn consultancy. And it's a different feel to which is more corporate. LinkedIn is obviously more corporate, and so it attracts. There is some crossover with people who are on both platforms. More people coming across and seeing that flywheel work now from LinkedIn to Substack because they want to obviously use both together. So that's really what I've been teaching people recently, how to do that. My background originally was law. I was originally a real estate lawyer many, many years ago. I still actually hold a practicing certificate because I draft social media policies for firms. So when I'm not LinkedIn training and creating content, what I'm doing is I draft social media policies, which sounds really dull, but I quite enjoy it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Right.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, it it's so interesting to see how see some of your posts that I've read. Substack and LinkedIn can really complement each other. They're so
Yeah.
different and they can really complement each other. Now, you came into Substack recently, and the story of why you came to Substack is pretty crazy. And I think now looking back, you probably think that it worked out for the better. But
Yeah.
I'd love you to tell that story.
Yeah, so it definitely worked out for the better, but I probably wouldn't want to go through it again. It was, I think, June last year, and I just woke up one morning and I was engaging on people's posts like I always do. And then suddenly, 11 o'clock in the morning, I get it flash up. You've been permanently restricted. So it wasn't even a temporary restriction. They'd gone like all in with their permanent restriction. I was like, what on earth is going on? Um, I wrote to them, did all the usual channels, raised support tickets via Twitter, actually, X, which is actually the quickest way to raise a support ticket.
Really?
If you can't,
Huh.
you can raise one on LinkedIn, but if you don't, sometimes you don't get a response. And if you do it via X help. So you go to LinkedIn help on X, and it's the only time I ever use that platform is if I've ever needed to go onto the help desk, and basically they can raise. Sorry, they can actually raise a ticket. Sorry,
No, you're fine.
sorry, rookie mistake. Switched off. They can raise a ticket for you. Um,
That's pretty cool.
So
I didn't
yeah,
know that.
it works much quicker if you can't get a response from LinkedIn quickly. But basically, back and forth with LinkedIn, they wouldn't tell me what was wrong. They just said we're not putting you back on the platform.
And that was your business.
Yeah, I explained that, and they just said I even went to because I live in London. I went to the LinkedIn offices. I went to their head offices, and And they were super nice, and they sent through a letter to like the California office, but I still didn't have any joy. I still was getting these silly like responses saying they can't tell me what's wrong because of privacy reasons. And this was like, and after about literally about 25 emails, I just basically gave up in the end. I was like, you know what, I need to move on with my life. Like, this is like killing me.
Wow.
And then I just decided, like, as a last resort, I wrote an email to Ryan Roslansky, the CEO, and so I wrote to him, and then I also wrote, copied him in. I wrote to their lawyers in California who I knew represented LinkedIn. And I wrote to one of the partners there and said, look, for all these reasons, it's basically it's against the law to take down my account like that. And I gave all the reasons because I suppose because I had the advantage
Yeah.
that I could look up the law and I knew what I was talking about. So I laid it all out exactly why they contravened, and even as as a platform, as a large networking platform, they don't have the right to put in terms and conditions that are against the law. Like, they have to, their terms and conditions need to comply with the law, not the other way around. So anyway, I obviously put all this, and they obviously realized, actually, like, she's not going to go away because she actually knows what she's talking about. So within 24 hours, in fact less than that, I was back on the platform
Oh,
once I
wow.
to their lawyers. And that was it. Then they phoned me. They were really apologetic. I had a phone call with them. They apologized. They did give me some
Hmm.
compensation. That wasn't why I did. I said to them, actually, I don't need anything. It wasn't like anything great, but they
Yeah,
gave
yeah,
me some months of my account free. And I said to them, actually, like, I don't need anything because I've got my account back, which was what I wanted. But there's a problem with your systems.
yeah.
So, and they were really apologetic. But during that time, I had this hiatus. Actually, it was 12 weeks. I've said it in about 3 minutes, but actually, it was 3 months that I didn't have an account for.
Wow.
So the only thing that was lucky about it, and I'm trying to like look on the bright side, was that it was over. It was over the summer where a lot of people were, and I had from my business Travazan, I had existing clients. So it wasn't like I couldn't do any work,
Oh, okay, okay.
but
Yeah,
I had no pipeline, because a LinkedIn
yeah,
trainer without a LinkedIn account is a bit like a struck off doctor. So, I'm a LinkedIn consultant, so to not have an account would have
yeah,
been like difficult. So I started on Substack. I was like, okay, I'm going to have a look at this other platform, which I know exists, but I've never had the time to really look into. So, and I just, as I said to you before, I went all out in those, like, I was on holiday actually with my family for 3 weeks. So every morning I'd spend like 2-3 hours, like basically
oh,
learning,
wow.
consuming Substack, like literally before anyone else was up, like set myself up. I brought over, luckily, I was able to bring over most of my connections from LinkedIn, said, look, I'm now on Substack. You've been following, we're connected on LinkedIn. I'm now on Substack. I really hope you'll follow me there. Obviously, a few people dropped off. But actually, I was really fortunate. I mean, I don't have personal relationships with with all
Yeah,
my like 40,000 followers, but I do have, I do know quite a lot of people. Actually, I've had conversations with them over the years, and I've got a really supportive community actually over on LinkedIn of like other marketing people as well. And like, most people followed me over. So it was great. I had like a great platform to start with. And then I just was like, wow, I was like blown away by the tech on Substack compared with LinkedIn. It was like, wow, I've been
yeah,
missing, this is what I've been missing. This is what LinkedIn is missing. And then sort of once I was like settled on Substack and sort of was starting to grow it quite fast. And I was like, and obviously Substack has these great incentivization with
yeah,
their
yeah, yeah, yeah.
leaderboard. So I was
Oh,
like,
yeah,
oh, I'm going to try and grow on this. And so I was like, I was sort of, I spent my summer being quite competitive to try and really sort of almost get to where I was on LinkedIn on Substack, which obviously haven't. I'm not at that level, but you know, you've obviously been on it much longer than me and are a complete expert on Substack. But what I realized was that, and this is where actually I've sort of really honed in the last sort of like 6-7 months, is showing people how you can use the two platforms together, and
yeah.
it's a
And that's a
really,
challenge.
but it's the platforms actually, they sort of all slot together. I ran a boot camp with Christina God a few weeks ago about the LinkedIn Substack flywheel, and the recordings are actually available if anyone wants them, just to DM me. I can send you the link to get the recordings. But it was like a 4-day camp, and we just showed people how you can use the two platforms together, like really make the most out of Substack, really make the most out of LinkedIn, bring them together, and you basically like double your reach.
That's awesome.
Because you
Yeah.
know, and as I said, you're monetizing your presence on LinkedIn much more directly, because LinkedIn, obviously, you can run. I've run a business
Yeah.
using LinkedIn and growing my pipeline there for the last 10 years. But the difference is that on Substack, obviously, it's much more direct, because people will subscribe to you. So they take an annual subscription, and then, you know, oh, they're in your world for at least 12
Yeah.
months.
Yeah. And it's, and at least from what I've seen, I haven't had the best experience on LinkedIn, just because I feel like everybody coming to me is wanting to sell me something, and I started the newsletter, the same articles that I'd post. I tried posting on LinkedIn. It didn't work. I could tell people commenting were probably not even reading them, and but in Substack, you get people. You can't. What I'm trying to say is, you can't use LinkedIn as you use Substack. You really have to know
Yeah.
how to use the strengths of each to supplement it. I mean, I've actually learned a lot about doing that from you. So
Thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
you're very active. You are very active on LinkedIn as well. I know that. Like on a
yeah.
daily
So
basis. So I see it.
try it. I'm learning. I'm learning from Mel. So anybody who's not following Mel, you're missing out. So please make sure to follow. But one of the things, especially when you bring up that you've been on it for a decade, there's been so much going on over the past 10 years.
Yes.
And I'd like to zoom out a little bit. We live in a time where really, at least in my knowledge, there hasn't been a good competitor to LinkedIn. If you're a professional and you want a professional network, you have to be on LinkedIn. So, what is the biggest shift that you've seen in the use of LinkedIn, as you coach leaders, as you talk to people, especially as AI started taking hold of the world, really?
Well, I suppose it's definitely harder to have a really distinctive personal brand, because there's so much AI generated content. So
Yeah,
I think that that's really the key at the moment to really making yourself stand out, is to really think about how you write, and not be sort of sucked in to the fact that you can write a post in under 30 seconds, because the odds are it's going to look like 10 other people's posts in the same
yeah,
sector. And I think that there's definitely a bit of a backlash that we all do it. And because you can now generate an infographic in like a minute, 2 minutes. You can generate a great infographic or a carousel, and they look really professional. It's what I mean, I have to admit, I give probably 2/3 less work to my graphic designer than I did 5 years ago, because it's so,
yeah.
image generation is so quick now, and producing branded assets for a LinkedIn post. But that said, by far the posts that do the best on LinkedIn are those that come from, and I was talking to somebody else about this morning, real life experience. So those posts that usually start in, so my big piece of advice, if you want a post to go far, to have a great reach, start in the first two lines and put the word I. So I felt, I experienced, I did, so put an I in rather than like a generic start to a post. And nearly always people will read on, and you want them to click past the see more. That's the key when they're
Yeah.
looking at, like, on mobile, because about 60% of sessions on LinkedIn are now from a mobile. Um, so really the key is that you want people to click see more. And normally if people think that you're going to be talking about something real, your experience, a case study, a client experience, they're much more likely to click on. And then you can go into more detail
That makes sense.
further on into the post. So sometimes I'll be like, so I might say, like, I was really, I was really heartened to read that. And then I will go on and explain like how someone can do something on LinkedIn, like it might be using a LinkedIn feature, like, for example, I might say, well, I actually, I've got an example I can think of. So somebody reached out to me 2 days ago using the LinkedIn services option. So they saw my the
Yeah,
services
yeah.
on my LinkedIn profile, which, by the way, I would advise anybody, if you haven't got your services page set up, if you don't do anything else, please do that, because you will immediately rank above everybody else in searches that haven't got it set up. So immediately it's like easy win. Anyway, she had found me through my LinkedIn services page. Obviously, LinkedIn had suggested me as a service provider. She's looking for help with her LinkedIn branding and content, and she's now set up a call with me.
Oh,
So what I will now do, what I can now do is I will start a post with, I was approached, like, what's the effect of, like, I was approached last
oh, I
week,
get it. Yeah.
and then I will explain to people how to set up their LinkedIn services page. So you can start with the personal and then shift it to the informative. And the key at the moment to for LinkedIn, to the algorithm, is that you sort of stay in your niche, that you stay on track. So, like, if I start going off and talking about AI, which is really more like more your department than mine, LinkedIn will see like a misalignment between my profile and what I'm talking about. So if it's something like it's something sort of happy clappy, and I'm talking about, about feel goods, helping, I don't know, helping homeless people or something, they'll push it out because it's a feel good post. But if I'm just going off on a tangent and talking about medicine or AI or something that doesn't match up with my profile, it actually won't push the post out as far. So you really want to
That's
stay on.
interesting.
Yeah, the new algorithm's called 360 Brew, and and one of the things that it looks for when you post in the first round, there's two rounds of like testing of your post. What they do is they show it to a few people first, and if it passes that, they pass it out to more people. They show it to more
Mm,
people. So you've got to get past that first initial that first initial sort of showing of your post to a small number of people on LinkedIn. And hopefully, but usually, if you've started that post with something personal, people will want to read it.
yeah.
So
That's
that's
good.
what, yeah. So that's what
So
that,
make sure your services page is set up, and
yeah.
then start with personal, move to informative,
Yeah.
and stay within your.
And that
Uh,
normally works. And still, like, pictures, if you've got photos of yourself, they work really well on LinkedIn still. I mean, even though they've tried to, over the years, that they went through a stage where they were saying, oh, selfies, etc., aren't going to do really well anymore, but actually they still are always the highest performing post for people.
yeah,
Because also, I think, because it used to be, if you posted a really good infographic, you were good to go, it would be really excellent. But now there is, the platform is
it's so
flooded with
easy.
it.
Yeah,
They're flooded with it, and it's no longer like, oh, he must be really clever to have made that. Because a lot of people know how to
yeah,
do that now, so it doesn't look quite as impressive as it did. I mean, it worked quite well when AI first came out, and like, if you were sort of like ahead of the curve a bit and you'd like played with a few apps, it was like, oh, I can do this actually, and most people can't. But now so many people can use them that it's like, oh, okay, it's like the secret's out. So
yeah.
you can do something else to make yourself stand out. So things like lives, videos. I did a video yesterday afternoon, actually, because I'm on the committee and we're raising money for Cure Parkinson's. So I did a quick video
Yeah,
about.
that's awesome. I've seen that.
You saw my video, yeah. So I did a quick video yesterday afternoon, and but videos, even though they don't often get the most reach, they're really great for people seeing you in real life. A bit like doing a live, they get a feel for what you're like, because I might write a short note, 70 characters on Substack, but that doesn't really showcase my
Yeah,
personality. It doesn't
yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah.
It doesn't really show much about me. Whereas if you do a live or a video, or people sort of get more of a feel for what you're like to work with and just what you're like as a person.
Yeah, and I think it's especially important in the age of AI, when so much of the content is AI generated or AI helped. It's just good for people to know there's actually a person behind this. There's a
Yeah,
personality behind this.
exactly.
It's
And I
yeah,
love that with Substack. Like, the going live is it's fantastic. You can just, like,
oh yeah,
you just press a button, whereas there's none of this faffing with like Restream and StreamYard and all these other platforms that you have to with LinkedIn, which is something LinkedIn need to get onto with
yeah.
Substack.
And the
It's much
clips, the automated clips, and
yeah.
now you can post the clips automatically to LinkedIn from
Oh,
from
I
your
haven't done
Substack
that.
lives.
I actually haven't done that.
So it is risky. It may have you in a weird face, but
Yeah, I think I might. I think I want to see what I'm gonna look like before. But I'm sort of always wary about things that sort of automate what goes out in that way. Same as, like, I would never automate comment generation or anything like that, because it's
Yeah.
just far too risky as to what, however much you train an AI
Yeah.
platform to sound or speak like you. I would never trust it to actually talk for me. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's it's so interesting because you have I talk about this often. You have the lazy AI versus strategic AI use. Lazy AI is AI actually replaces your thinking. You just kind of lean back in your chair, you just hit
mhm,
whatever it is, post or create article or write this email for whatever it is. It's replacing your thinking, and little by little, you become less of an expert because you're just not training that muscle. Where
yeah,
strategic AI is, you know, you're focusing on your coaching, so that you use AI to maybe outline ideas or to help find new possibilities or new contacts or help. I use it for a lot of content repurposing. So I write an article and then I get teasers to go out. So in LinkedIn specifically, as your coaching leaders, as you're talking to people, what what does good AI use look like in 2026?
research trending topics in your industry, using it to find out what people are actually asking, their pain points and their struggles. So
Oh, that's
even
good.
going back to Google, old school Google, which now is like, oh, Google, that's not old. But it
Yeah,
actually,
people when you say you're Googling things, people just look at you a little weird.
yeah, it's like, oh, you're still using Google, bless. No, it's, but actually, if you use, actually, if you start typing into Google, like your, say the niche of your client, so just say that I wanted to work with family offices. If I start typing in family offices LinkedIn, it starts to show me what family offices are asking about LinkedIn, what they've typed into Google, like how to use LinkedIn, or how's the best way to get clients on LinkedIn? That immediately tells me what people want to know about. And that's
Yeah,
a really good way to structure your articles and your newsletters on LinkedIn. So, or on Substack. But I find actually Perplexity is actually the best for
hmm.
them taking those ideas and going into more detail. So ask
Oh,
Perplexity.
nice.
So what I'll do is I'll often get the ideas from Google, and then I will ask Perplexity to research them and give me some like titles, and even sometimes it depends what it is, provide a structure, and that is when I would say come to the table and actually put in what you know and
Yeah,
your knowledge, and add to it, and actually then craft the article, and then get it checked by well, Claude is really good for doing
yeah,
for that. So I get Claude to analyze it and see if it's got any suggestions to improve it, given, and if you have set up your Claude correctly, well, not correctly, but you've
yeah.
taken the time to put it to input into it sort of examples of LinkedIn newsletters or Substack newsletters that have
Mm,
resonated well structure wise. So it knows, what's the best way to structure for reach, etc. So it doesn't just provide you with like 2,000 words of prose that is dense and no one's actually going
yeah,
to read. Like, I mean, there's certain, I know, like on Substack, if you have too much dense text, people are a bit like, oh, and they don't spell all the way down. Or they pretend to, and they just write, oh, that's like nice post.
oh,
But
that's funny.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, you want to make it actually readable, and I mean, you can even say, I actually don't do this, but I know somebody who does, but there is a reason I don't use it. But a lot of people do, is that the average, apparently, the average reading age of on LinkedIn is you're aiming for is, I think they call it like grade 7, which is quite low actually. And
Really?
yeah, and so if you ask AI
That's funny.
to like check their reading grade. Now, I actually, for most of the time, don't do that, because a lot of the people that I'm connected to on
Yeah,
LinkedIn are quite
yeah,
capable of reading above that, and they like posts that are a fairly high level. Um, but that said, if I'm writing something really
That's
light-hearted,
funny.
I've seen
Yeah.
it. It gets like a reading grade of like
Right as for a seventh grader.
yeah, exactly. Write it for a 10-year-old. But people, sometimes, especially like on Substack, people are just going there for a bit, almost like a bit of enjoyment, a bit of
Yeah.
downtime. It hasn't always got to be super serious every single post that you write. I mean, I would say keep it 80% on LinkedIn, 80% professional, and then there's some room for maybe your Saturday post, which Saturday's a great day to post. They do really well on a Saturday. Think for everybody. I don't know anybody whose posts on Saturday don't do well. I think there's just physically less competition on the platform. So,
That is, I'm learning so much. I never post on Saturdays. So
and
this
like
is,
so I can see Micah said that he divorced GPT and
oh,
ran
that's
us through
funny.
perplexity. I haven't looked at my chat GPT for probably about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'll occasionally go onto it because I built some custom ones there, so I'll go and look
Yeah.
at what
Yeah. Yeah.
prompted my from my old custom GPTs. I've imported most of it into Claude now anyway, so
Yeah.
I don't do much.
Yeah, Claude is amazing. For the SEO piece, for example, I have a really thorough skill on ChatGPT. So before once I have a draft of a post, I give it to Claude and it runs through a marketing checklist and then an SEO checklist. And it usually gives me,
Amazing.
hey, these keywords are resonating, these are not. This is so there's so many if you can have your reach be increased by just being smart and doing a few different things, just some of the things that you're saying, add I at the front, add
Yeah.
services, and all of a sudden the same content can reach 5, 10 times as many people. There's no reason not to do that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, hashtags have now been demoted on
Oh,
LinkedIn.
really?
Yeah, so there's no need to add like lots of hashtags. Well, certainly don't add lots of hashtags to a post. If you are like between 3 and 5 is optimal, but there's now not that you don't have to add them for your post to go out far. It used to be
Interesting.
that you had to add like hashtag investing, hashtag communication, hashtag. But now and luckily, I really like the fact that on Substack, like you don't have every note sort of yeah.
That would be heavy. That would be a lot.
Yeah, well, on Instagram, it's still like that, and it's like,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's quite nice to have that
No,
you don't have to do that.
that's awesome. So a question that I had is, what is the biggest miss that you see from people using, you know, experts, people who really have the skills on LinkedIn? You can see they have the background, and they're just missing it. It's just not. They're not getting it.
Probably the headline, because
Yeah.
especially senior leaders who will just have in their headline like CEO at or partner
Yeah.
at, and they're just missing the whole search and SEO angle, because although once someone lands on their profile, it might look impressive. They say CEO of wherever of
Mhm.
Procter and Gamble, but the point is that they hi Ashley, sorry to see you too. But they won't come up in searches, and that's
Yeah.
really key. So, and even from a company point of view, from a branding point of view, you want all your teams to be coming up in searches. So your ideal is to have everybody search all their profile search engine
Yeah.
optimized, which will just push your company brand, because company pages don't go very far in reach.
Yeah.
They're a bit there. They always have been those, and they still are. Whatever people say. I mean, like I never tell people to invest too much time in their company page. Yes, post on them so they're active, but they're a shop window. So but you can really still push out your company page if everybody from their personal profiles is set up
Mm,
correctly, is search engine optimized,
that makes
has
sense.
it has a branded profile and has customized their URL, got their headline in place, services page, skills, etc. There's umpteen different sections, and you want people to read on, so they see the headline when someone comments on
Huh.
a post and they read on, and that's really what you're aiming for.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've seen some headlines that you just shake your head. It's like, there's so much missing.
Yeah, there's someone, like, I'm not going to name and shame. I had one the other week, but she commented on a post of mine, and I can't actually say what it is because
Yeah. Yeah.
people will be able to look her up. But it was like it was a it was, I think she meant it. I think she was trying to be funny, but she would have come up in zero searches for anything because no one would ever be searching for that on LinkedIn. And I thought, like, I'm not even sure that I can't even see how it would sell her as a brand, as a person. It wasn't a particularly attractive vision of what she was calling herself. And I was just like, wow, like
Huh.
she's a marketing person. I know she obviously wanted to stand out, but marketing 101, like you're not going to come up in any searches. And as much as
Yeah.
obviously you want your profile to, you want it to be aesthetically pleasing and to to catch people's eye and to be beautifully graphic designed. You also want it to be set up so that it physically comes up in searches
Yeah.
when people are searching for what you do on LinkedIn. Otherwise, for most people, it defeats the object of actually being there.
Yeah. No, it really is a dance that we're getting into now, and I feel like AI is just going to maximize this. But I coach leaders on AI strategy and AI implementations, and there's just part of leadership now is having to manage both people and AI. Whether it's something in LinkedIn, hey, optimize your profile for people, but also to be found by the algorithms or people who are applying for jobs. Yes, you have to be interesting in the eyes of the person hiring, but for most companies, you have to get past the AI review in the front end that's going to match keywords and it's going to match. So increasingly, it's becoming a world where you do have to kind of swim in both lanes. And it's difficult, but it is skill. And I think that's where you are so valuable for
Well, I hope so.
LinkedIn.
But I mean, you can't ignore AI. So the people who are like sort of anti-AI, like, oh,
Yeah.
well, it's not, it's not authentic. It's not. It depends how you use it. If you use it smartly, then it helps you. It saves you time. It probably produces better content than you would have done before. However, it's not the finished article
Yeah.
unless you've read it, you've used what you know in your experience, which it doesn't have. So because it can't possibly know for every, I mean, you can upload your meeting notes into it, but it still won't know every in-person meeting that you
Yeah.
had. It won't know how you felt when someone said something to you. And it's these sort of lived experiences which will it will propel your content above the next thought
Mhm.
leaders or above your competitors, or make somebody hire you and not the next person because you'll have shown that actually
Yeah.
you had this experience, and even though on paper you might look the same and offer the same services, and as we said, like things like personality will always play into it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And it's hard. It's hard. And that's why I love that there's coaches, that there's experts. I mean, on Substack, there's so many resources. You can use AI, and I tell people this. You can use AI. It is going to be helpful, but a big part of growing, a big part of business is differentiating yourself. And if you're fully generating with AI, if there's none of you in there, there's no experiences, then 100 other people are going to be posting the exact same content, and there's nothing that stands out from your work.
No, I agree. I agree. I just see Peter's just asked about clickbait
Oh yeah.
content. I don't know whether you ever use. You might say something different to me. I mean, I don't. I can't. I'm trying to think. I can't ever remember using it. I might have done one post or something in years and years, and of doing this sort of comment X to get Y. So same deal, and I'll send you a PDF. I mean, I don't engage in that. Maybe I should. Maybe I should. Maybe I'd get more views, but I don't, because I think that most people who see it know that it's a gimmick, know that it's a marketing gimmick. As it happens, LinkedIn are clamping down on that sort of post. At the moment, they've said that they are not going to promote posts like that, but I still do see. I know
Mhm.
people who are doing very, very well on Substack and LinkedIn, and they use that as a common like a very common strategy. Um, I should probably do one and test it because I've always been anti doing it. Just because I feel it's a bit low rent. I feel it's a bit like everybody like knows what you're doing, and
Yeah.
I would just rather not do it. Have maybe okay, maybe 3,000 views instead of 13,000, but I'm sort of okay with that on some posts. And obviously we all want more impressions, but it just feels a bit icky. So I tend not to do that. But you might say differently, Joel. Like you might use that frequently and say that actually it works really well. And, I get 50,000 impressions on every post I do that on. So, you know.
Yeah, I personally don't use that. I see it on Substack too, and it's hey, everybody who subscribes, I'll subscribe back, and it it isn't. It seems that Substack is pushing it because I see it all the time in my feed. But I personally don't. I feel the same way. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not judging anybody who's doing it.
Yeah, that's right.
I
If
don't
it's
know.
super
It just
successful
isn't.
for people. I mean, now I'm sort of thinking, well, maybe I'll test a couple. But I've never done it. It's just not my. It's just not my style. So I
Yeah.
don't do it. But that said, there are people who I think are doing very well from it. The other thing also is that you can't always tell because a lot of people who do it they're in groups where
Yeah.
all the people that
That
are
is true.
commenting why are people who are in in a group with them. So it's not always transparent as to how well it's
That's true.
working, that strategy. Funny enough, there's somebody who I know, I think you probably know them too, who uses it quite a lot. And actually, I think I'm going to have a conversation with him. I'm actually interested to know how it's working nowadays because LinkedIn have said that they're going to
Mhm.
really clamp down on people doing that. So it will be quite
Yeah,
interesting.
I think I know who you're talking about, and yeah, it's. I feel like when there's big resources, like, hey, I've created this resource, I've seen it work there. Hey, I have this 20-page report. If you comment X, you'll get it. I don't know. I've never tried it. So if you do try it, please,
Maybe
I'll
I'll
be
do one
glad to read that
tomorrow.
post.
I've got a
But,
million resources. I could do one tomorrow and tell you what happens. But I
that's funny.
suspect that just I'll get like a few people who will say, but most people I know won't fall for that sort of clickbait.
Yeah,
The most of the people I know. So
yeah. It also stays with your brand. So if you
that's the
haven't
thing.
ever been doing that, it's gonna strike people as like you were saying,
Yeah,
a
it
tangent from
doesn't
what you
feel
normally do.
right with my brand. I try and like sort of be fairly classy with it, and it's
Yeah,
like it's not really on brand for me. So yeah, I
yeah.
probably
No,
will
I
not.
get it. So we're reaching the end. One question that I did want to get to is what do you think leaders, creators need to prepare for as you look at what's coming over the next 6 to 12 months? You obviously can't predict what's happening, but as you see kind of the tide that's coming and how things are changing, where do you see things heading?
Definitely not to put all your eggs into one basket. So I would say that you need to diversify. So I'm not saying that you need to like join Facebook and start going all out on TikTok, but definitely I would suggest making sure that the platforms are that it's moving sands, and you're especially on LinkedIn, you're on rented land. So at least with Substack, you have people's should it all go wrong, you have people's email addresses, which is like one of the big advantages of Substack. So, or start an email list. So even if you don't want to start on even if you've been on LinkedIn and you're still a bit unsure about Substack or vice versa, just always make sure that you have as much data downloaded from each platform as they will give you on a regular basis. So you always want to
That's
um,
a good point.
yeah, I would always suggest that once a month you download your data especially from LinkedIn, and Substack. You can export as well. You can export your subscribers, and then you just always have something that is sort of yours to then do something with, to take elsewhere, to build on, away from the social media platform. So I think that the
Yeah.
smart leaders will have networks in real life, on LinkedIn, on Substack, on email. They won't just
You're
have one.
not dependent on just one source.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
No, that's awesome. That's good. So if people go to your channel, to your Substack today,
Yeah.
what is the first resource that they should go to?
Ooh, I've got quite a few. I've got quite a few. As you know, I just launched because I said to you, I just launched the analytics
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
dashboard,
yeah.
which is super cool. That was yesterday, where if you've downloaded your data from LinkedIn, you upload your messages file. It will analyze all your messages. It will tell you who you need to re-engage with, who's gone cold, you get an
That's awesome.
incredible, yeah, you get an incredible report. But if you haven't done that, I would say there is I would look at my articles about optimizing your profile and download my checklists. I've got also lots of there's a free LinkedIn tools on my homepage of the Link Tank. So if you look for free LinkedIn tools, there's lots of things that you can just use on there, prompts, etc. So, and also someone just asked about LinkedIn newsletters. Do I have any tips on LinkedIn newsletters? Yes, when you set up your LinkedIn newsletter, every time you publish, go to the settings and make sure that you put in your SEO title and description. People don't even realize it's there, and you're like missing a huge opportunity to show up in searches. So that's my tip for
That's
LinkedIn
awesome.
newsletters.
And also, I mean, if you're creating on Substack and you're not doing that, that's also awesome. I usually
Yeah,
have a different title for my SEO title within Substack than my
I
actual
do too.
title on the
Yeah,
post,
so do I.
just because, yeah, you're speaking to Google, and here I'm speaking to my readers.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting.
And
No, that's
do you use AI to create your SEO title?
100%. Yep, 100%. And then what I do every once in a while, and it's actually worked really because I do everything on Claude, but every probably once a month, I'll go through Google Search Console, for example, and I'll download every page, how many views it got versus how many clicks it got, and I'll put it down to Claude and I'll have it analyze it, and it'll see, okay, this is resonating more. This is getting views, this is not getting views. So this is what people. So a lot of times it's not that the content needs to be different, but just the title needs to be worded a little different. These kind of wordings, if I start with how to, it does a lot better than if I start with 5 ways to. I don't know. That's
Yeah, no, I have
maybe
to say, all my how-to articles do the best on Substack.
yeah,
Same on LinkedIn as well.
yeah,
People, because you're imparting practical tips for people. So
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think that's at the heart of it. Are you adding true value to people? Are you actually being helpful? And if you are, it tends to resonate with people. It
hopefully,
tends to go far. You know.
yeah.
So I'm just so thankful that you've joined us on Substack. I feel like I've known you since you around the time that you started on Substack, and I've just seen how everything, and I've learned so much from you
Thank
from
you.
LinkedIn. So I really appreciate your time today.
No, thank you for inviting me. It was great.
Yeah, it was fun. We'll get the
Thanks.
clips, and yeah, for everybody on chat, we'll be posting the full recording later as well, so you'll be able to get all the tips and everything
Yeah.
else that you got. There's been so much information. So thank you, Mel. You take
Thanks.
care.
Thanks, Joel.